We'll call the special work session to order. The first item on the agenda is consideration of a bid recommendation for the replacement of playground equipment at Discovery Park. Mr. Lotsky.
Yes, Mr. Smalls. Today I prepared a quick memorandum to you guys dated March 11, 2013. And this is just some information about what we're finding at Discovery Park concerning our insurance coverage and the cost to replace what was damaged. As you know, on March 3rd, we had a part of the playground, Discovery Park, was lit on fire. We have two sections up there. We have a younger age group and we have the older age group, which is 5 to 12, and that's the section that was damaged. On March 4th, we met with vendors who provided and installed the original playground from West Recreation and Game Time. Custom Park Service did the install for that playground. On March 5th, Ms. Haig met with representatives from Local Government Insurance Trust to formally file a claim. The information below is broken down for demolition of the damaged play area and installation of a new play structure. So West Recreation out of Queenstown, who did the original install, will demo the current damaged area to include the equipment, the footers underneath the rubber play surface, and the rubber play surface that was damaged. And their price is $18,974. And then to install the new play structure, to include the damaged rubber and of course the concrete and purchasing a couple more benches, that type of thing. The price they gave us was $134,998.24. Again, Custom Park Service does the install for West Recreation and Game Time. Funding, we're covered at $200,000 from Legit with a $5,000 deductible. The $5,000 I think can be covered out of our current CIP park improvements. Recommendation, along with our insurance company, we're both concerned about the additional liability to the park with kids climbing on things that they shouldn't be, even though we have it fenced off. So we'd like to move pretty quick, especially to get the playground removed. We won't remove the rubber surface at this time. We'll only fill in the holes until the new playground arrives. At that time, the rubber surface will come out, and then the new playground will be installed with new rubber surface installed also. And this, the playground, if we order, I believe they place orders on Wednesday. Game Time will start construction on it the following Monday, and it's about a 4 to 6 week before it gets to us. So that's our thoughts at this time, Mr. President.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lasky. Mayor Mo?
Mike, I don't know if Marty had the opportunity to talk to him. We were down at the other incident this evening, talked to Bill. The fire marshal said that, we kept talking about the rubber matting it's not supposed to burn, but apparently underneath that matting there is a silk base which apparently burns. I'd like for us to look into that. I guess if you clear it away and there's issues to deal with, if there's somebody who wants to do damage, as you're well aware now,
right.
That could be an issue, but also just for the safety of the individuals at that matting. So it's apparently there's some type of mesh that goes underneath. So we need to look at that and do more of a fire retardant, if that's the case. Is that correct, Marty? Well,
I understood the concept.
So if you could look into that, and as we award the contract, I want us to look into that with the vendor as well.
Okay. Mayor, since the current playground is a poured rubber and that was a loose rubber, they do a little different
Okay, right.
sub-base for that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lasky, Council, any questions? We'll start with Councilwoman Crary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know that when Discovery was put in, that the vendor told us that you could cut and patch. Is the damage so extensive that the whole playground has to be replaced?
No, that's what they're intending to do. They're intending to make a kind of a straight line cut. Basically, it's about half of the rubber surface,
right?
And then they'll re-pour that part. Yes.
That section of it.
Yes.
And as far as insurance, I don't know if this would be you or Ms. Haig. That Is there a certain limit for a year, an annual basis, will legit, or does this end on our fiscal year of June 30th?
We're going to pay the price.
You know that, Pat?
It will be noted in our experience rating and history. This is the first claim since our deductible was raised. Our insurance consultant, Adam Salicki, did a study a couple of years ago of the 10 years prior, and he recommended we could save on premiums if we went to the $5,000 deductible. And we did, and we have saved those premiums, but it will be most likely legit on the same year we are, July 1 fiscal year. So I anticipate that we haven't submitted our application for renewal yet. I don't expect it will be, will impact our premiums very much for FY14, but it could impact our premiums in FY15. Mr. Fleming has advised that he and the chief have talked, and we're looking at protective measures. So a lot of that is how we mitigate. Legit will give us a consideration for that too.
For a reduction in premiums,
Just to maintain, hopefully.
just to maintain.
I don't know if we'll get a reduction depending on, these are two major claims.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Ricks?
First of all, I want to state my public concern for what's happening, and I know that all the authorities are doing everything in their power to correct it. I am concerned about a couple things, though. One, I'm concerned about the price for the demolition. It seems a little high. There may be a special market that deals with that, and they only do it once in a while, so therefore that makes it a higher value or price, if you will. But I'm still concerned with that figure. I think that's pretty high, and but nevertheless, I am committed to see that this park is up and running as soon as possible. The other thing that I'm concerned about, having a little bit of a fire background, is that the first park that we talked about had a complete blanket. So if in fact there was a mesh below that blanket, it had to burn pretty heavily before it got to that mesh. As to whether that had anything to do with it one way or another, the second burn that we've experienced, I think that we have to now take a look at the fact that that was a material that was smaller. It may have been the same type of material that may have had the mesh below it that did even more of an acceleration. But I think we have to be extremely vigilant in how we repair this park or the other one, that we don't make that same mistake again, in that it was supposed to be retardant, and obviously it wasn't. So I just hope that when you deal with this, that you will have that in mind, and as we move forward and get this done for our children. Thank you.
Councilwoman Nicholas?
Donna actually already asked the question that I had.
Councilman Les?
I'm fine with this. Excuse me. Let me just echo what Mr. Rick said. If we're going to draw a line and cut something out, I want to make sure that what's left there won't catch fire because of an underlayment that might be remaining there, Mr. Lotsky. I don't want to hold anything up because I think it's important that we get these playgrounds back in service as soon as possible. But again, I am concerned that what I saw was, I'm not a fireman. I couldn't go in a burning building if I tried. But what I did notice was that apparently if the rubber gets hot enough, it's something's happening, because that's where all the black smoke's coming from. So again, we need to make sure that whatever's down there, nothing is flammable. And that's it, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Les. I think it goes without saying, and I don't want to be redundant, that the administration has moved pretty quickly, Council, on working to get this before us for approval. As you've noticed, it is on our agenda for action tonight. So I want to commend the administration, Mr. Lotsky, I think you in particular, for getting this before us in such a rapid fashion. As you stated, having that damaged equipment up any longer than necessary poses a real safety hazard for the community. Curiosity seekers, as well as young people who will be attracted to that as well. So, Council, I hope that we'll move favorably on this tonight. And if there is no other business, Mayor Mo, any comments?
I'll have some comments under my report later this evening. Let me just thank council and acknowledge Mr. Lotsky and his staff for working quickly on this. I know I got calls from all the council members who are very concerned about making sure that this park that's heavily used, Discovery Park, is repaired and fixed and back up for the children's youth and the youth to use that. So we'll move as quickly as possible once the approval is made. And I'll have a further statement later, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. If there's no other business for the work session, we're adjourned. We will convene our regularly scheduled council meeting at 7 p.m.
Commend this city, this county, and this state, and this nation to thy merciful care, that being guided by thy divine providence, we may dwell secure in thy peace. We especially commend to your gracious care and keeping all the men and women of our armed forces at home and abroad, our law enforcement community and fire and rescue. Defend them day by day with your heavenly grace, strengthen them in their trials and temptations, give them courage to face the perils that beset them, and grant unto each a sense of your abiding presence wherever they may be. Remember those upon a bed of affliction, comfort those who mourn. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Rob, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Crary?
Here.
Mr. Ricks?
Here.
Mr. Les?
Here?
Ms. Nicholas?
Here.
President Smalls?
Here. Agenda item 5 is approval of the minutes for the 26th meeting of February 25th, 2013. Council, we've had a chance to review the minutes. If there are no modifications or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Crary.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes. We'll now move to the report of the mayor and council, and tonight we'll start with Councilman Ricks.
I'd just like to, again, send out our personal greetings to the Robinson family for our loss of our good council friend and great citizen of the city of Laurel, Jan Robinson. We attended the memorial service this past Saturday. It was well attended. I thought the comments by Mayor Moe and Council President Smalls, as well as Reverend Litchfield, were certainly on mark. I was very much pleased by the generous and just amazing, I wouldn't call it a speech, but the homily from the Reverend up at the Presbyterian Church. I thought that she showed a love and a compassion for Jan that some of us probably knew and thought about many times, but she had the bully pulpit in order to pull it off. And so for that, I commend them, for everybody, for what they did for Jan. I'm very, very proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ricks. Councilwoman Nicholas.
I'd like to say I too agree with Eddie for the memorial service for Jan. I didn't know her as long as everyone else on the council, but she was a great mentor to me, and she's surely going to be missed. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Crary.
Thank you, Mr. President. On March 2nd, I attended the side-by-side breakfast. Also, that breakfast is an annual event, and along with my colleagues on the council. In addition to that, the mayor's open house was a success again and very enjoyable on March 3rd. This past Saturday, I testified on the bond bills in Annapolis for funding for different issues here in town. Hopefully we're successful and get something out of the legislature. On Sunday, I attended the NLC meeting on community and economic development. And a couple of the issues that are before Congress are the online sales tax, which is non-existent at this time, and also the Made in America Act. And that concludes my report, Mr. Smalls.
Thank you, Councilwoman Crary. Councilman Les.
Thank you, Mr. President. February 28th had the pleasure of going to look at what's going on at Watt Chapel, which will be representative of what the Laurel Town Center will look like. It's impressive. If you're down that way to Crofton, look off to the right on Route 3 and you'll see the theater in the back, and that's how the Laurel Town Center is going to look. March 1st, I had the pleasure to spend some time up at the Columbia Lake Elkhorn, taking a look at their silt removal operation. Well, actually, the end, they had 3 lakes. They spent $13.7 million. We're very lucky that Mr. McCullough and Mr. Lotsky were there with me, along with Councilwoman Mary Kay Sigate. She's the vice chair of the Howard County Council, and Councilwoman Lehman. And what Mary Lehman has indicated is she wants to move our efforts to get the upper bay cleared out of silt as on an accelerated basis as opposed to waiting to 14 or 15. It's in the budget for the county and the CIP. It can't be moved. It has to be used for silt removal. They don't have to empty, they don't have to dewater the lake. They actually do a dredging operation and dry the soil out and then haul it off and use it as fill. So we look forward to that. I also attended the side-by-side breakfast. Thank you to Joe Murkison for always remembering to invite us. And of course, the open house at City Hall on Sunday, March 3rd was good turnout, a lot of good information. Yesterday and today, I attended the National League of Cities meetings also. Yesterday, there was meetings of the committee that I'm on, which is the Transportation Infrastructure and Services. They are discussing, one of the topics was in fact passenger rail service, which includes the Camden line. We're not unique in the city of Laurel where we can't get midday. There's a lot of problems with passenger service around the United States, and the committee will be working on a policy, hopefully, that we can push forward to our representatives on Capitol Hill. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Les. I'm simply going to say I did many of the things and attended many of the events that my colleagues did. Mayor Mo?
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple things. Get well wishes to Tracy Conway with the Laurel Police Department. Also, condolences, you heard, to our former council member, Jan Robinson, and her family in the passing of Jan. To Kathy Harvey, and our whose sister passed away. Kathy is in our budget management office. And to Chris Benskowinski. Hope I didn't hack that up too bad. And the passing of Chris, she was our CERT member, and we wish her and are thanking her family as well. The did have an opportunity to tour the Howard Corporate Center down on Greenview Drive. Mr. President, we'll be passing some information to you and the council to take the opportunity to go and see what that's all about. It was a great opportunity. I want to thank them. Also to Mr. Gibbons, I want to thank him and his staff for the tour at the Wall Chapel Town Center. As you heard Councilman Les say, that is very similar to what you'll see here at the Town Center at Laurel. Very impressed. They were pretty much about 98% occupied as a center, and we look forward to our center moving forward quickly. I want to thank city staff as well as all the organizations that participate in the city's annual open houses. You know, we think well over 500 people attended again, and just a great opportunity for everybody to put faces with names, learn about organizations that are, and what many organizations do in the city of Laurel. I want to thank our Councilmember Donna Crary for attending. Saturday was a busy day for a lot of us. That was the day of memorial service for our Councilmember Robinson, and Donna was able to get down to Annapolis, testify on behalf of the city of Laurel on some bond bills that we had. So I want to thank Donna for filling in on that as well. Mr. President, I want to make just a couple comments. As most know, Discovery Park, Goody Lake Park, and now Emancipation Park have all been crime scenes, quite frankly. An individual or individuals felt the need that they needed to destroy city property and, quite frankly, destroy areas where it should be a safe environment for kids to not only exercise their bodies but their minds, quite frankly, and that has been damaged. I want to thank council members for their call and thank the quick response for our police department as well as the fire department and Prince George's County Fire Department as well. We're not going to tolerate this. We will find the individual or individuals and we will prosecute them fully. And we're asking those in the general public that have any information regarding these crimes to please notify the police department. You don't have to give your name. You can call the police department at 301-725-5300. I'm sorry, 301-498-0092, which is the non-emergency number, 301-498-0092. We have offered up to a $5,000 reward for information leading to and the prosecution of the individual or individuals regarding these actions. And again, any information that you may have regarding Discovery Park or Emancipation Park in particular, we ask that you contact us. If you don't want to call the police department, we ask you contact one of your council members, or you can call Prince George's County Fire Department as well. But we're not going to tolerate this. The community shouldn't tolerate this. This is an area for the youth and kids to enjoy themselves, and that has been damaged. And we are going to do whatever we can to stop this and to educate the community to be involved and to turn these individuals in. With that said, Mr. President, I have a couple reappointments to the Board of Election Supervisors, Mr. Bill Welford, Ms. Gwendolyn Boyd, and Mr. John Kish for reappointment. Also for reappointment to the Emergency Service Commission, the Honorable Robert J. DePietro, a former mayor, and let me give Bob a happy birthday wish. Tomorrow's his birthday, and early wishes to Bob. So those are my appointments, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. President, I so move for the adoption.
Councilman Velez, second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Rao, would you call the roll?
Mr. Ricks?
Aye.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Concludes my report.
Agenda item 7 is general public hearing. I will open a general public hearing at 7:15. I have no one signed up to speak. Is there anyone who'd like to speak during the general public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the general public hearing at 7:15. Agenda item 8 is consideration of a recommendation for the installation of a generator at the Laurel Armory Anderson Murphy Community Center. Mr. Lotsky.
Good evening, Mr. President. As discussed at the last work session, the mayor and city council and the administration have been very aggressive about getting generators to our various buildings around Laurel, not only for to keep emergency services type operations going, but also keep day-to-day business and our recreation centers open. The latest one is the Laurel Armory Anderson Murphy Community Center. We do not have a generator there now. And in addition to the numerous recreation activities, the community center serves as a sheltering operation in the event of an emergency situation. There's a Maryland state contract for the size generator we would need. Curtis Engine and Equipment out of Baltimore currently has the contract. The generator sizes that we determined with our engineers is a 150 kilowatt model. It will also have a 400 amp transfer switch that unit would power the entire building to include the garage area, heating, air conditioning, electricity, lighting, and whatnot. The proposal from Curtis Engine and Equipment includes the necessary labor and materials to install the 150 kilowatt diesel-powered unit, the 400 watt or amp transfer switch, the concrete pad, and additional sound and weatherproofing to that unit. The price information is as follows. Curtis Engine and Equipment out of Baltimore, Maryland, $75,949. Funding for the project is available from the city bond funds for the Armory in the FY 2012 CIP. Recommendation, the city has worked with this vendor on generator projects for the Robert J. DePietro Community Center, the Laurel Municipal Center, and the Parks and Recreation Maintenance Facility. We've been very satisfied with the product and workmanship of all the mentioned projects. Therefore, after review by city staff, it is recommended that the mayor and city council award the generator replacement contract to Curtis Engine and Equipment for $75,949.
Thank you, Mr. Lotsky. Council, this was discussed at our work session on March 6th. I'll entertain a motion to award.
I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Ricks. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Crary. Any discussion? Ms. Rao, please call for the vote.
Mr. Ricks?
I'm going to vote aye and note for the record that this is predicated on and follows the back of a state contract, and that that's the reason why the single bid, and so I vote for it.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes. Agenda item 9 is the consideration of a recommendation for the installation of a fire sprinkler system at the Parks and Recreation Maintenance Facility.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this was discussed at the most recent work session. City of Laurel desires to install a fire sprinkler system at the Parks and Recreation Maintenance Facility to include a new storage building. Working with KCI Technologies and our fire marshal, we were able to decide upon the proper system that would best protect the facility against fire. With the pending completion of the new water service, upgraded water service that we approved last month, we will be ready to soon complete this final phase, which is the sprinkling. The scope of work includes installing a wet pipe automatic sprinkler system throughout the entire Parks and Rec Maintenance Facility and the storage facility. The amount of sprinkler heads and fire department connections will also be included. We invited 3 contractors to provide a proposal. The information is as follows. Independent Fire Protection out of Silver Spring, Maryland at $23,644. Jensen Fire Protection out of Laurel, Maryland at $29,872. And Capital Sprinkler out of Columbia, Maryland at $33,125. Our funding for this project is under the current CIP under the Parks and Recreation Maintenance Facility. And our recommendation, after review by city staff and the fire marshal, is recommended that the mayor and city council accept the proposal supplied by Independent Fire Protection for $23,644.
Thank you, Mr. Latsky. Council, we also discussed this agenda item at our March 6th work session. What's your pleasure?
Mr. President?
Move for the award of the fire sprinkler maintenance facility to Independent Fire Protection Incorporated for $23,644.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Councilwoman McCrary, you want a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Rao, please call the roll.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Aye.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes. Agenda item 10 is the introduction of first public hearing on ordinance number 1767, an ordinance to approve an amendment to the revitalization overlay area RO2-01 site plan and landscape plan for Park Place and providing an effective date. I've read the title into the record for the first reading. I'll open the public hearing at 7:20. I have Mr. R.J. DePietro. R. DePietro. I'll leave it that way. Please give your name and address for the record, Mr. DePietro.
Bob DePietro, 502 Gorman Avenue, Laurel, Maryland, representing Legend Builders. And this is the Park Place project located between 7th and 8th Street, 198 west bound and eastbound. Mr. President, this is the first public hearing on this application numbered RO2-01-213. For the record, the property was properly posted. The certified mail, as required by the planning department, was mailed to those properties identified by the planning department. The principals of the project are here tonight. We have no objections to the written staff report that has been sent to the council tonight and forwarded to the Planning Commission. We have no objections. This is the first public hearing, and we'll be happy to sit and listen to comments from the public, respond to any questions by the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DePietro. I have no one else signed up for this agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at 7:22.
We did get a letter.
Mayor?
You got the email?
Did we get a letter for the record? Okay, so we did have a letter for the record regarding that, and we'll make sure that the applicant has an opportunity to see that letter.
Mr. President, can we get a copy of the letter, please?
You got it.
You were forwarded.
It came late today.
Okay, thank you.
Make sure we referenced it.
Second public hearing with possible action will be held on Monday, March 25th, 2013, at 7 o'clock p.m. Agenda item 11 is the introduction and first public hearing on ordinance number 1768, an ordinance to enact a new Chapter 3 entitled Animal Control to the Code of the City of Laurel for the purpose of dealing with animal control throughout the city. I've read the title into the record for the first reading. I'll open the public hearing at 7:23. I have no one signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to speak? If you'll come to the podium and give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Laurel Carter. My address is 14974 Bellamy Drive, Laurel, Maryland. And I'm actually here to speak on, there's actually a bad population of the cats within my neighborhood.
Pull the mic a little bit. There you go.
There has been a bad population of cats in my neighborhood. I came outside on a Saturday morning. There were actually 12 cats, stray cats, just running the neighborhood. There's actually one of my neighbors who's feeding the cats by leaving food in her front yard. The cat, I have pictures. They were actually fighting against the wildlife. I have a picture of a cat with a squirrel in his mouth. I have a picture of a cat that killed the bird today. It's just like getting out of hand within my neighborhood. The cat was actually on my Mercedes-Benz car that I work hard to pay for, scratching on my car, and I tried to talk to the neighbor about it, and they said it's not going to stop. I just really feel though there's something that needs to be done about this, because it's the springtime coming, and this population of cats is going to get worse by the neighbors feeding the cats before it get better.
Thank you. Mayor?
I just said, we also received an email as well from you this afternoon as well. I just want to reference, thank you for sending that.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this agenda item? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at 7:25. The second public hearing with possible action will be on Monday, March 25th, 2013, at 7 p.m. Agenda item 12 is the introduction and first public hearing on ordinance number 1769, an ordinance to amend Chapter 7, Garbage, Trash, Weeds, Article 4, Dumpsters, Specialized Trash, and Garbage Receptacles of the Code of the City of Laurel to amend Section 7-55 to extend the compliance date for the existing dumpsters and provide that the Director of Community Planning and and Business Services shall administratively approve a site plan amendment for a refuse enclosure and provide for the waiver of development review fees and building permit fees for a refuse enclosure, and amend Section 7-56 requiring compliance with Section 20-2.2, plans, plats, and information to accompany application for permits of the Unified Land Development Code, providing an effective date. I've read the title into the record for the first reading. I'll open a public hearing at 7:26. I have no one signed for this agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at 7:26. Second public hearing with possible action will be on Monday, March 25th, 2013, at 7 o'clock p.m. Agenda item 13 is the introduction of the first public hearing on Charter Resolution number 162 to amend Section 701 of the Charter of the City of Laurel entitled Program, to change the date by which the Mayor and City Council must have prepared a proposed capital improvement program from February 1st to May 1st of each year, and to amend Section 702 of the Charter of the City of Laurel entitled Adoption Procedures to require that the ordinance adopting the capital improvement program be adopted by June 30 each year rather than February 28th. I've read the title into the record for the first reading. I'll open a public hearing at 7:27. I have no one signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at 7:28. A second public hearing with possible action will be held on Monday, March 25th, 2013, at 7 o'clock p.m. Agenda item 14 is consideration of a bid recommendation for the replacement of playground equipment at Discovery Park. Mr. Lotsky.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President. As was discussed at the work session prior to this meeting, the Discovery Park Playground received major fire damage on March 3rd. Most of the play equipment and rubber surface was damaged at the 5 to 12 age section of the playground. On March 4th, we met with the vendors who provided and installed the playground. Game Time, West Recreation, and Custom Park Services have provided quotes to remove the damaged play equipment to include a portion of the rubber play surface and to provide and install new play equipment to match the existing equipment. On March 5th, Ms. Patricia Haig met with representatives from the local government insurance trust to formally file a claim for damages. The information below breaks down the demolition of the playground area and installation of the new play structure. So for the demolition, West Recreation out of Queenstown has priced this at $18,974. This will be a two-phase process. We'll remove the existing damaged play equipment. We'll leave the rubber surface up, and also remove the concrete footers from the play equipment, fill in those holes, and then when the new play equipment is ready to be installed, we'll remove the damaged rubber at that time. The install from West Recreation, also out of Queenstown, Maryland, it was for $134,998.24. Funding, we are covered at $200,000 from the local government insurance trust with a $5,000 deductible, and the deductible can be covered out of the CIP Park Improvements Program. Recommendation, it's our concern and the insurance company's concern that we act pretty quickly on removing the damaged equipment for fear of children and others getting involved on that equipment and getting injured. Therefore, it's recommended we proceed with the removal of the damaged equipment and place the order for the new equipment as soon as possible. It is anticipated that the demolition can start in a few days, and the new play equipment typically will take 4 to 6 weeks to get here and be installed.
Thank you, Mr. Lotsky. Mayor?
Mike, I'm sorry, I don't usually ask these questions, but since it happened this evening, my question, Mr. Manzi, before council takes action, the equipment on Emancipation Park is going to need to be removed no matter what. My question is, can we ride this same contract to remove that equipment while they're in the area? I mean, I know we'd have to talk to them, or do we have to, how can we move this along once the insurance company does their bit? Because again, they're going to recommend us to remove it as quickly as possible.
That's the key. I think you have to talk to your insurance company. But I think if the maker of the motion would amend the motion for the removal of the other, even though we don't know exactly what the cost is going to be, I think you can probably assume it'll be in the neighborhood of what we have here for removal. And anyway, this will be reimbursed to us through our insurance, so I think you could pre-approve that removal.
Mike, are you okay?
Because it's public safety issue.
Are you all right checking on that?
Yes, sir.
Pat and you get together with the insurance company, but if we can tie these two together, may be able to even save a few dollars removing them as well together. Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that the council consider that, and sorry this late notice, but I didn't know we were going to have another issue, quite frankly.
Council?
Mr. President.
Councilman Ricks?
I'd like to move that we grant the administration the authority based on the numbers that we're dealing with here tonight, and that is the demolition of $18,974 and the reinstall of $134,998.24, recognizing those figures for Discovery Park and recognizing that we had an incident this evening where damage was done to Emancipation Park, that the administration use good judgment as they always do and get that work done as well.
Thank you, Councilman Ricks. Councilman Les?
Mr. President, I'll second that. Let me amend that if I could. We have Mr. Ricks's motion is for 18,974 for demolition, 134,998.24 for the purchase and re-erection of the equipment at Discovery Park. And if you'll accept a friendly amendment, Mr. Ricks, with an additional $20,000 allocated to demolish and remove the equipment at Emancipation Park, because in fact it is also a safety hazard.
I don't see the need to do that. Personally, because I think the administration has the authority to go ahead and do it. Why put a dollar figure to it? You care to comment?
I think you need to have a dollar figure here if you're going to ride this contract. That's my feeling. Ride this proposal, Ms. Manzi.
The only other way you could do it is use a not-to-exceed figure.
That's what I just said, 20,000,
Yeah.
up to 20,000.
Not to exceed.
Yeah, if you used, Mr. Les is saying 20,000, I think if you used a not-to-exceed, that probably will take care of it. You know, we don't know because it just happened this evening. We don't know if there's anything unusual about the removal down there, so giving a little leeway probably makes sense. But the insurance company we know they're going to cover it, less the deductible. But the other thing is we don't know how, whether there's anything special down there, and we don't know whether that park has been as damaged as Discovery was.
Well, just to comment, and that is that I think one thing, if we can coordinate this somehow, and I don't mind putting a dollar figure on it, and if we put a dollar figure of no more than $20,000 for the demolition and no more than $150,000 for reinstallation, and recognizing the fact that that particular park is going to have to be moved for the construction of the library, right. So it should be coordinated somehow that we find out where it's going to be and then rebuild it at that time.
Mr. President, that's why I didn't mention anything about reinstalling, because in fact, with the library, there's going to be movement there. But we need to get what's there down, because in fact, it could be a safety hazard. And it could present a risk to any kids that go over there, children that go over there and try and use it. That's why I didn't say anything, Mr. Ricks, about the reinstalling. That'll be a separate issue as they move forward with the new library.
But I'd like to have the parks up for the spring and the summer so the children will have someplace to. I mean, I'm sure on the documents that the city has, there is somewhat of a close location as to where you plan. There's not.
We're not there. Right? It's got to come back to y'all.
All right.
Let me, if I could.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, just to make this simple. What I'm looking for is for you to understand that what the insurance company tells us, it's got to come down, the money or the funding source is there, so that I can authorize staff to move forward on removing the equipment, and then we'll come back to council and keep you abreast of what's happening. I think Mr. Les's amendment.
It's in line.
Yeah.
So I adopt by friendly amendment.
Thank you, Councilman Ricks. Thank you, Councilman Les. Good discussion. I'll entertain a motion. Oh, we have a motion. Ms. Rao, please call for the vote.
Mr. Ricks?
Aye.
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Smalls?
I vote yes.
Thank you all.
That concludes our agenda. Is there any other business to come before the mayor and city council? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned.